player because this map is kind of liked by both races actually in the Terran versus Protoss matchup. I'd be a little surprised if we saw a Zerg come out, but once again, DTG is known to me at least for being a very Protoss heavy squad. So I'm expecting to see another Protoss player coming out. I believe it is.
That's a
This is
siege
going to
tank
be
portrait.
it's going to be DTG Royal, but I still think this is probably going to be a Protoss player. So it's actually going to be Madcow playing. Again, this is a team that is not on the North American server. I actually think these guys mostly play on the Korean server, so they are using shared team accounts as a lot of foreign teams are known to do on the North American ladder, and as a lot of North American teams use on other sorts of ladders. So this is going to be Madcow. He is another Protoss player. Is going to be a Protoss player on WCS Entombed Valley, and I'm eager to see how Jebroni is able to switch up his Terran versus Protoss style based on the map. This map is it's kind of an interesting map that kind of plays into both races' play styles in a lot of ways. But one thing that it definitely does do is it makes drop play a lot harder here.
Yeah, but there are some aspects of the map that allow Terran players to really hit some mid-game
Yeah.
timings. But I'll get into that when we get into the game. The game's loading up right now. The countdown has begun, and now we're in the load screen to narrate.
And Skype is blowing you back up to 100%. Winter blowing up the Skype call with his awesomeness. We have both players now finishing their load screen, and we have our two players loaded up. So here we go. We've got our blue Terran player spawning in the top left position on the map in Entombed Valley. He is formerly of Area 51, now playing for Team Fallacy. He is Jebroni.
And his opponent in the bottom left-hand corner in relatively close positions as compared to cross positions on this map because close positions horizontally are disabled, thankfully, on this version of the map. It is the Protoss player, another Protoss player being sent out by Dream Team Gaming, now picked up by Inferno Esports. It is Madcow.
So once again, InfernoDTG going with a very heavy Protoss lineup. We saw first, I'm trying to remember the first player that we saw, but then we saw Sickness. Oh, excuse me, it was Gandalf. It was Gandalf, the Wizard Protoss, and then Sickness, and then finally it is going to be Madcow. So it's kind of funny too because it's going to be like Madcow and Sickness, like Mad Cow disease is Sickness. Kind of funny how those names kind of blend together depending on the team. But this is a very heavy Protoss lineup, which is interesting. It's always interesting when I see players do this because it's like these are your best players. They just all happen to play the same race, but that does kind of give you limited flexibility with what you're able to accomplish in a team league. But either way, InfernoDTG is still up. This is going to be game number 6. So if Madcow can take this game, he will give his team the overall victory. But Jebroni looks really good in the matchup.
Yeah, and right now he's going for this gas first opener. I won't be surprised. This is something that's becoming a little bit more popular lately as Protesters are really figuring out the One Rex expansion, how to deal with it, how to abuse it. And right now, getting the gas first will both allow him to get a factory right after his barracks finishes, and he has a couple options from there. The Protest player, upon seeing this, sees he'll go gas first, sees the factory, because you can't hide the factory, the Marine won't come out in time. He'll think, okay, Banshees, Hellions, or Siege Tanks, and he has to choose between one of those, and there are completely different responses for each one. Of course, for Banshees, you're going to want the Observers, and you're going to want Stalkers. But if you make Stalkers and Observers, that makes going for Reactor Hellions and Marauders a lot stronger. So it'll be interesting to see what Jebroni does as soon as his probe leaves the base and he makes his first Marine. If he throws down a Reactor, I would expect to see Hellion Marauder or Hellion Banshee play. If he throws down a Tech Lab, we might be looking into Siege Tank play. And of course, if he just makes a starport, we could be seeing a Hellion Marine drop. There's so many opportunities. I really love the options this gives Jebroni right here, and it looks like it will be the Reactor.
So this might be a Reactor Hellion play. This could also just be, once again, a Marine tank push coming up from Jebroni. This map is pretty friendly to Marine tank styles just because of the way that the natural base is laid out. As a Protoss player, if you're able to get this Nexus down on the low ground, all of the buildings, the pylons, the units are all going to be very exposed to siege tanks being deployed down on the bottom of the ramp, which gives Terrans kind of a unique advantage here. But it is just going to be reactor Hellions. But all that Madcow is really going to do from here is delay his Nexus, get out a couple more Stalkers, get out a Sentry, and the single Sentry is able to block off the main ramp here, which is going to completely deny any sort of usage of those Hellions. But where is it going to go from here?
Yeah, it looks like right now we're going to be seeing the Hellion Marine drop out of Jebroni, and Madcow is already prepared for this. He has pylons on the outside of each of his bases. He's going to be able to see that medevac coming in, and that will buy him crucial seconds to react. If he can get his stalkers in position to keep Hellions from running by, if he can get a force field down to keep Hellions from going into his probe line, that's absolutely critical. And that's why those pylons are out there right now. But stalkers are not in fact faster than Hellions, though they may be faster than Vikings. And it looks like these Hellions may be able to chase it down and take it out. And now Jebroni's shown his hand. And we have to see how Madcow is going to deal with this. He's getting more sentries. I don't think he's really going to be prepared for the Hellion drop because sentries not especially effective against units that get dropped into your main via dropship.
Sentries are also light units too, which means that those Hellions do additional damage to them. So Hellions are actually deceptively good at killing sentries, and if Jebroni's able to get sentry kills this early on in the game, that's really going to set back Madcow. He's invested a lot of early gas into these sentries. 3 sentries out on the field, that is 300 gas. That is a robotics facility. That is a robotics facility and a Twilight Council and 2 warp gate techs. So that is a lot of gas that has actually been invested in these sentries. And this whole time, the presence of these Hellions are really delaying when Madcow can go for his initial nexus. So he's really being forced into a 1-base play from here.
Yeah, he's doing a good job. He's getting his command center right now. That's going to even it up. He looks like the nexus is going to come down. Will be scouted, but this pylon will once again come into play. Will give Madcow time to react, but he's not doing so. And now he finally sees it. I don't know if the Hellions are going to get out. The force field's going to land, and the pylon placed perfectly. He's just going to get out of there knowing he can't do anything. Very well done by Madcow, minimizing the damage to actually nothing. And it looks like we're just going to go straight into a macro game.
He did set those trees on fire, Winter. He did manage to set the trees next to the pylon on fire, so he did do some damage, just not to the actual base of Madcow.
It actually burned the leaves off. That's cool.
Yeah, the trees are on fire just a moment ago.
I didn't even know that. It burned all the leaves off the trees.
So a little bit of damage was actually done to the environment. So Jebroni is clearly not an environmentalist, Terran. He's an industrialist, Terran. We have these Hellions being dropped off once again, but the pylons are doing such a good job of preventing damage done. But looks like the Hellions are going to get in anyway. The probes are all lined up, but it does look like they'll be able to get evacuated to a safe location before those Hellions are able to pick them off. So how many probes are actually killed in all of that? 4 probes have gone down. So Jebroni is making some use out of this.
Yeah, a lot of these probes have been scouting probes. I think he only got 1 or 2 there. He's really doing a good job. I really like the decision to keep this medevac drop a threat instead of just committing the Hellions in, maybe getting a few more probes, but suddenly once you kill all the Hellions off, obviously it's not going to be as much of a threat, and it's not going to keep Madcow as passive as he is right now. Because if Madcow moved out with the unit composition he has, there's this timing where Jebroni, he has unupgraded Marines, his siege mode isn't finished, and he only has 2 siege tanks. With an Immortal or 2, Madcow could easily break up the ramp, but he doesn't want to move out of his base when 4 Hellions can move into the back. No way at all, and I really love how Jebroni's playing this out right now.
Yeah, that's a perfect point, Winner. Like the presence of this drop has given Jebroni absolute map control. Madcow can't leave his base. He can't leave his base. He can't push out. He can't take advantage of the fact that his army is actually stronger than Jebroni's, and because if he does, he's going to lose all of his probes. And so this is like perfect all-in defense from Jebroni. It allows him to go straight up into the siege tank play, which is going to allow him to protect his 3rd base, and he's going to take a 3rd base from here.
Yeah, and right now, the one thing we are seeing is a lack of production facilities. Jebroni looks like he's going to play extremely defensive because if you make your 3rd base before your next production facilities, that almost always indicates that you're going for that macro base play, and it looks like the Observer will make it in. If he can catch that Observer before it scouts the 3rd command center, that'd be absolutely huge, because right now it looks like Madcow just going for a heavy 2 base, and he's going to be pretty far behind in economy the longer this 3rd base is up in mining, especially with the engineering base coming up before Forge has even begun.
I mean, we do have 3 additional gateways being dropped down by Madcow, so it does look like Madcow might be interested in going for a big attack, but the presence of those siege tanks are going to make an attack very, very difficult. We have 1 additional drop coming down on the
Observer was on
left
top
side
of
of the map. Yeah, the Observer did manage, of course, to see it. So this drop is not going to be all that effective. Stalkers are already in a position to stop it. And once again, mirroring the Observer placement of his teammate, Madcow has really good vision of the map right now.
Oh, he could have killed those Hellions off as they got dropped out in the front here, but the drop will be shut down very easily by Madcow on the left side. The Stalkers just take it out and then take the couple Marines that ventured out of the dropship before it was blotted out of the sky. And right now, it looks like Jebroni is doing almost exactly what he did last game, just with a different opener, making his way up with a couple siege tanks to defend this base, and I love it on this map. There's no way you're coming up any of these ramps against siege tanks entrenched on the high ground. No way at all. And Jebroni's just going to get up to 3 bases mining ahead of his opponent. His upgrades are going to be ahead once again, and it looks like Madcow going to find himself in almost the same position that his teammate did just the last game. Of course, he's going to be a little bit more solidified in his economy, as he didn't go for that heavy warp gate attack early on. He didn't lose any probes to the Hellions, but still, he finds himself behind in tech, behind in economy, and all he really has at the moment is the ability to produce a very strong army, which means absolutely nothing if his opponent is sieged up on the top of a ramp.
You know, but he is going now for double forge. He is getting charged. He is getting his Templar archives down. He's not all that far behind. Now, Jebroni has done a very good job of getting himself this slight lead, but the lead is not insurmountable. Like you said, Madcow is not as far behind as Sickness was in the last game because he chose not to go for that big attack. Now, Jebroni wanted him to attack. He had those siege tanks ready, and because his opponent didn't actually attack, Jebroni's siege tanks are going to be dead supply as soon as this army continues to get upgraded. Siege tanks are not cost effective, even as defensive units, once the Protoss army gets heavily upgraded, especially with this many Immortals involved. So the Jebroni really needs to do something with these siege tanks. He needs to either get rid of them, he needs to do some sort of damage with them, because he's going to be switching directly into a full-on bio-based play from here. We have some Zealots being warped into the natural expansion of Jebroni. These Zealots are actually attacking SCVs that are being killed, so no SCVs have actually been killed in all of this. The Zealots are being forced back into the Warp Prism, so they are being forced back. So drop play has been almost completely nullified by both players in this game. The Hellions are trying to move back into the third damage, but they're going to get picked off entirely. So both players with really solid harassment denial. They are forcing each other into a straight-up game. This attack from Jabroni, I really just feel is to free up some supply, but he could get some High Templars also. He is going to get some High Templars also. He's going to focus fire down those High Templars. Nice focus firing with those siege tanks, but he is, of course, going to lose all these siege tanks. There are just too many Immortals in that army.
Yeah, there's a drop coming, there's a run-by coming in, but at the same time, the army going to get cleaned up. Every single siege tank has fallen. The supply has evened up a lot. 2 medevacs fell with that attack. He tried to time it out with 1-1 in stim, but the unit composition of Madcow was just way too good to deal with that army. If he had all his army consolidated in one place, of course, I feel like Jebroni could have done a lot more damage, but these Warp Prism drops would have done a lot more as well, and some more Zealots being warped into the main, already up to 5. He's trying to target on the engineering base. That's a futile endeavor with this many Marines on the field, but at the same time, he sees the entire army out of position. He's going to move into the third base.
He's going to move into the third base, but he doesn't have any storms in this army. He does have force field, so he can't trap this army on the middle of the path right here, which he does manage to do, but the force field has a gap in it. The Marines are running through it. The Marines are going to be able to catch the remainder of the Zealots, but some nice force fields are blocking back this army again, but again, the force fields are not exactly perfect. This Bioforce is now free out in the middle of the map. They're chasing down this slower Protoss army, and Madcow is losing so much here. The Stim Marine Marauder Ball is just catching every single unit. The Immortals have both been caught. This is looking so bad. He really needs to get some storms out on this army, but as soon as Jebroni sees the High Templar, he pulls back.
Yeah, there's only 2 medevacs here with energy. The other ones are running dry right now. We have 6 Templar. All of them will have a storm by the time this engagement commences. More Zealots being warped in on the right-hand side. 2-2 is about 2/3 of the way done for both players. Just slightly ahead for Jebroni right now. This attack could do a lot of damage. The first couple of Ghosts have joined the field, and I don't know how this is going to go. It depends on the position, depends on the storms, depends on the EMPs, and it looks like they're about to engage.
Oh, feedback does go down. That is a brilliant observer placement. Jebroni does not see that observer. That observer is so important. There is a scan down in the field, so he does know exactly where those High Templars are, but EMPs are going to land, but one of those High Templars still has some storms available. Storms are clearing up a lot of the Terran Bio Army. 136 supply to 145 supply for Jebroni. These Archons are pretty exposed. Jebroni could rush forward and pick them off. It doesn't look like he is going to, though. Those Ghosts did come out in the field to try and get a few more EMPs off, but the army for Madcow had already backed up a little bit. More High Templar have been morphed in, but they are very far behind. So these High Templar are in a position where they can actually do something called a parting flank, where they're able to just get on either side of the army and storm from a distance. But it does look like Jebroni is content to set up this 4th base location. He's turning that into a planetary, which is going to give him an even further economic lead over his opponent.
Yeah, and right now, both 3-3 upgrades have begun for the Protoss, while they're lagging a little bit behind now for Jebroni. He's lost the upgrade lead. It's now going solidly in favor of Madcow, and that'll help out his army a lot, especially with this many charge lots here to tank damage. Even if their shields are stripped away, they'll still take a lot of shots from their Marine counterparts. And the Planetary Fortress has finished at this base, but how many storms does he have? He has 4 storms right now with this army. That's more than enough to keep this army at bay. While he kills the Planetary, if he controls it correctly, the Ghosts are lagging behind. He can land the storms.
Oh.
Are coming up though.
Oh, but the EMPs are landing on all of the High Templars. So the High Templar are going to go down for sure, but a good morph by those High Templar into an Archon is going to buy the remainder of the army at the time that they need to get by. So a valiant sacrifice by those High Templar are going to buy their brothers in arms some time to actually retreat. They are regrouping. Additional zealots are being warped in. There are a lot of ghosts out on the field, and where are the remainder of the High Templar for Madcow? They are coming up a little bit further behind. They get once again. Swords are landing on the left side of the army. Zealots have all been EMP'd, so a lot of zealots are going down, but now all of the ghosts, with the exception of maybe 1 or 2, are still left in the army, and here comes another warping of zealots. EMPs are landing all over the zealots. This army is so close. This engagement is so close, Winner.
Yeah, right now, this army is so red. There's only a single medevac on the field. A couple more joining in to heal up the rest of this army, and another group of reinforcements will make it so Madcow isn't able to do anything effective. And now the factory floating over will see the 4th base location, as well as another Marine coming in, and it looks like Jebroni will move into the center of the map. This unit composition still needs some time to get healed up, but that same time is being used to gain energy on the High Templar of Madcow, and +3 weapons just seconds away from finishing for both players, and +3 armor on the way for the Protoss player, and far behind is Jebroni's. That could make the difference with that extra upgrade. When it comes down to the fight, the first Colossus is finally joining the field, as well as a second starport being made for Jebroni. So they're going neck and neck right now. It all just comes down to control right now. There's nothing, no one's in a lead. Just comes down to how they control their army. And it looks like we're just going to have another engagement in the open field, and this might favor the Terran player.
I don't know about that. There is a single Colossus, and no Vikings are actually out on the field yet, so there is nothing actually out on the field to deal with these initial Colossus, but every minute that Jebroni can buy for himself is additional time that he needs. But the thing is, he's maxed out, Winner. He is maxed out. He has no Vikings, and he's maxed out. He needs to clear up some supply. Otherwise, additional Colossus are going to enter the field, and those Colossus are going to absolutely decimate this Bioforce. So he needs to do something to get some Vikings out on the field. Otherwise, he's going to get absolutely slaughtered here.
Yeah, he has 75 SCVs. He can afford to make probably 2 or 3 more command centers with the bank he has and just throw 10 or 15 of them away, use that supply to make Colossus. He's getting his +2 air weapons for the 0 air weapon using units he has on the field. There's so many ghosts, 14 ghosts, only 5 Hard Templar, but the 2 Colossus will make all the difference. If they get a couple nice swipes off, then suddenly the Storms can soften up the entire army to get cleaned up by the Colossus and their thermal lance. Both players still just sitting on the 4 bases, another command center on the way. Pylons going down every side, making sure he always has an ability to warp in, and it looks like Madcow spoiling for a fight.
Oh, EMPs land on every single zealot, so every single zealot is without shield, but the Colossus are able to do a lot of damage to the Bioforces, but some really nice control from Jebroni has allowed him to completely clean up all of the buffer units in that army, and now it does look like both players are going to clean up each other's supply handily, but Protoss is going to be able to warp in a little bit, but not if this Bioforce is able to clear up the Colossus, but the Colossus do get a few more nice shots off on that Bio army, but a nice even trade from Jebroni is going to allow him to clean up free up the supply that he needs to start building some Vikings, but all of his ghost count is gone. So the important tech units for both players minus the Colossus are completely out of the field. So it is really just bio units on the field right now. He needs to make Jebroni needs to remake every single ghost in that army.
Yeah, and the ghost count being gone so huge, it's so easy to just continue to warp in Templar while it has to be an active thought to continue making ghosts. And right now there are 3 High Templar on the field to only 1 ghost, but there are also 4 Archons, and those Archons have so much in the way of tanking damage to shield for those Colossus. They can take out Vikings so quickly. It looks like Madcow wants to engage, and this is a good spot with the Storms. He hasn't lost a Colossi quite yet. Another Storm will take out a lot of units, and right now Madcow, I don't think he can break this quite yet, but he's doing a good job so far.
The Colossus are just doing so much damage. The Archons are doing so much damage. But great positioning with the Vikings on both sides are going to allow him to clean up all of the Colossus. And I feel like Madcow might have overextended here a little bit. The Bioforce for Jebroni is going to chase down the remainder of the units for Madcow. And will he be able to actually push all the way back to the main base? All of those units are very, very badly wounded. And he does finally realize that he has pushed himself maybe a little too far. So he does fall back. Jebroni is playing this so well.
Yeah, right now we're still looking at 64 probes for the Protoss player, which is fine. He's still mining on 3 solid bases. He's going to be looking to get a 5th soon. The 5th base has begun to become a planetary now for Jebroni, and it looks like there's a probe there. He could start to warp in units and deal with that SCV count, but right now Jebroni might even want to start pulling some SCVs off the line and using them as fighting units so they can free up the supply, because the army supply of Madcow is allowing him to stay in this game. If Jebroni just got maybe 15, 20 more army supply, 5 more Vikings, a handful more medevacs, he would start winning these fights much more convincingly. He's starting to take the advantage, but with the Templar being warped in, the Storms are just buying enough time for the Colossi to do their damage, for the Terran army to get pushed back. But I don't know, the Vikings are coming in. He's going to get a good spot here. If he can pick off this Viking, the Templar are very far behind. I think this might be it.
This is going to be a really good engagement for Jebroni if he's able to land these EMPs. The Vikings are doing a lot of damage, so the Colossus EMPs have landed all over the Zealots, and the Zealots are very badly damaged, but it does look like there is still enough splash damage left in that army for Madcow to actually push this army back. Snipes are going off on 2 of the High Templar.
Yeah, and just a couple storms come in, and that was his last set of storms. He only has 1 High Templar left on the field. He needs to warp some more in, but he doesn't have the gas income. He's run out of gas in his main base. He's quickly run out of gas in his other expansions.
And that is the other problem for Madcow here. Jebroni has been sitting on a comfortable bank of gas this entire game. His mineral income has been kind of low, but he does have a lot of additional gas that he can use to keep remaking ghosts and medevacs. And Madcow, by contrast, does not have a bank. His bank is very, very, very low. Every single bit of money he's able to get right now has to immediately go into all of his army supplies. So Madcow, he really needs to get some time. If he can get some time, he'll be able to slowly remake the expensive units in his army. And Jebroni's already maxed out. He needs to push this advantage while he has it, because if he'd rather fight a Protoss army that's missing some key units rather than fight a fully functional, fully maxed out Protoss army.
Yeah, and right now, Madcow's looking for that endgame scenario. He's getting his 5th base, and more importantly, he's getting Warp Prism speed. What he's looking for that one fight where he cleans up the Terran army, and there's no way that the Terran army can engage his main force, but at the same time, he warps in so many units to the main, the production facilities of Jebroni get completely wrecked, and that's what he's looking to do with this Warp Prism harassment here soon, probably along with Storm Drops as well. But first he has to take out the Terran army, and that seems to be a pretty tough task right now with 16 Ghosts and 7 Vikings against 8 Templar and 2 Colossus, as well as 7 Archons, Lewis leading the charge, all the probes as well.
Oh, there is so many Archons and so many Ghosts are actually going out, but they are able to land all the enemies, all the Archons. They completely evaporate. The Archons are completely gone. There's only a single Colossus left out on the field, and I think Jebroni might have done it. He has the bank that he needs to reinforce his army as long as he doesn't eat the storms from those remaining High Templar, but it does look like the storms alone are going to push back the remainder of Jebroni's army. Madcow holds once again.
One more time, the Warp Prism now making its way over to the right side. He has 2 Templar coming to the 5th base location. Of course, I think Jebroni will actually like him to kill some of these SCVs off at this point. He's already up to 66, and he does have a macro CC as well. He's up to 4 orbitals right now, which is more than enough to continue mining his current income, but he's warping it a lot at the natural location, trying to split this Terran army off. Most importantly, he's drawing it back while he remakes his entire army. He's making those Colossi. He's trying to regain that critical mass of Colossus that allows his Templar to get in range to Storm without the Ghost being the EMP, and he's doing a good job so far, but the reinforcements of Jebroni just enough to clean up the Warp Prism, and the Storm Drops killing a decent amount of SCVs, with the Stalker cleaning up some more on its own. And right now, pretty much Madcow has done everything he needed. He's bought the time. He's bought the time to remake his army. His army supply is back up to about 100 against 133 of Jebroni, which is a workable situation with this many Templar on the field. And finally, he's starting to mine gas from his 5th base location.
But the one thing that Madcow is not doing, he's not investing as heavily into Colossus as he should be right now. He's investing very, very heavily into Archons. And the one thing that Jebroni has been very, very consistent in both games is getting a very, very high ghost count. And the thing is, with that high of a ghost count, Archons don't really do anything. They get completely annihilated by the massive amounts of EMPs available to the Terran army. You know what doesn't get annihilated by EMP? Colossus. He needs more Colossus in his army. He's too heavily reliant on Archons. He's allowing that high ghost count from Jebroni to really, really punish him.
Yeah, and now the Templar are moving into the middle of the map. So is the Terran army, though. So many of these medevacs are low. They will die very easily. The Observer gets overhead. Looks like he'll spend a little time trying to engage that. Now the Templar have joined up, but they are all clumped up. He can land the EMPs